Welcome back, everybody. Right, let's start a new week, and hopefully everything's going to be fine and fantastic. What are we doing? We're trying to build a tabbed document example using EGUI. We're trying to build an example so that we can evaluate EGUI compared to other frameworks that we've also evaluated. If you've been following along with this stream. Yeah, so let's show you where we're at today, and we'll pick a requirement and just have a go at the next one. So here we go. Here's the IDE. These are all the requirements. We'll come back to that in a moment. And I did a little bit of work since the last stream. And we can now edit text documents. I mean, sort of. You'll see. So we've got a tab document. We can press home. We can do this. We can create a form. We can try pressing the submit button, and we've got form validation going on down the bottom there. If I go test, use the file picker to pick a directory, and pick text and press submit, this is now what we get. It took me a while to get to this point. And you can go in here and you can edit some example content, right? And you can submit the form again. And this isn't how it's supposed to work, but this is what it currently does. You can submit the form again and you get a new tab, right? And we've got other example content in it. And yeah. But as you probably can see, there might be some issues with this. We've got two files created with the same file name, and they're both not synchronized on the separate tabs, so it's kind of weird. And when you create the file, it doesn't actually create the file on the file system. And obviously there's no save button or anything like that on this at the moment either. But, you know, there we are. And also the requirements say that when you press submit, the tab is supposed to change into the document tab as opposed to open a new tab. So we've got some things to fix. Additionally, if I close this and then open it, it's supposed to show you the files that were open before you closed it. And now this is going to be a problem because we had two tabs with the same file name. But we haven't actually done the loading of files yet. So it just says loading now, currently. Okay, so we've got to fix some of these issues. So I suppose, what do we feel like trying first? I don't feel like using the tab system to change the tab from a new one to another one yet, because it's not my tab system, it's some other tab system. Let me show you what the requirement says for it. So the new tab, when OK or submit is pressed, it says the tab name should be updated with the name of the file. A file should be created with the appropriate extension. Its content should be displayed in the tab. There should be no visible removal or insertion of a new tab, and the tab ordering must be preserved. Right. If I was writing my own tab system, which is what we did for some of the other GUI frameworks, then some of these things are slightly easier to implement. But I don't think the API for the tab system that we're using has a replace tab method. But I did see like a map tabs. So maybe we can do something. Let's have a quick look at that. I don't think I want to spend too much time on that particular aspect because there's bigger fish to fry. But we'll have a quick look. So let's look at the new tab, right, and see what happens when we press submit. Now, on the end of the last stream, we basically had a submit button, and at the bottom of the screen in the log, it was showing what was submitted in the form. After the stream, I'm like, well, how do we get the app to do something with that information? And that turned out to be quite a challenge. So the way I've handled it is that when you're on the New tab and you click on Submit, it runs the onSubmit handler, which takes a sender from the context. And we're into the realm of messages and all this kind of stuff again already. So in order to have a sender, the tab needs to be given a sender. Where does the sender come from? Because it can't just use one randomly, right? We've got self on submit and it uses context sender. So this context needs to have a sender in it. So this sender needs to be populated by somewhere. And if you remember from a while back ago, we added in the main app the notion of some context, which is used when we try and get the tabs to do whatever they need to do. Each tab needs some shared mutable states, such as the home tab needing the config in order to toggle the checkbox, right? The show on startup checkbox. And so what I did after the stream was put a sender in this context. So let's have a look at the context now. So the sender has a sender of an app message. So a sender can be used to send an app message. An app message, the only type of message that can be sent at the moment is create document with some document arguments. The document arguments is name of the file that you entered in the form, the path to where the file should be created, and the kind of file that should be created. It doesn't have the file extension or anything like that in the name. It's just like the name that was used. And the idea is that the main app should handle the creating of the file and then update the UI appropriately. There may be other reasons that you want to create a file other than from the submitting the form, for instance, on the New tab. So, yeah. But the problem with that is that you don't know who sent the message. So the New tab, it just goes, send a message. Away you go. Yeah. It goes on submit. On submit calls this, and it sends a message. The New tab doesn't know anything whether the message was received and what it should do after that or anything. So like, yeah. So then it's like, well, should the application, know about tab messages, and should messages be wrapped and all? And we're also introducing like dependency on the application into the New tab. So now if we look at the dependencies on the New module, which contains the New tab, the tab now has a dependency on the application message. And that doesn't feel right to me at all, because the application message then has a dependency on lots of other things. So all the dependency direction is all over the place. So, I don't really like that. Yeah. So dependency on the app message here just feels really wrong. Document args, you can move that into the document, you're new when you're creating documents. That kind of makes sense. That dependency makes sense. But this dependency, yeah, it just smells. It has a code smell to me. Anyway, yeah, so senders. So we create a sender when the application starts up. And that's done here. So a sender is created by creating a channel, and a receiver is also created. And when the init method is called, it updates some state. And then we had the choice of like, well, should we have an instance of an application that doesn't have a receiver in it? And kind of no, you don't really want one. You don't really want to have an option and like unwrap it all the time. Right? So what we could do in our template app, in our app state rather, is to have like an optional receiver, an optional sender. But you never really want to have an app state without these things. So it's then, well, but you can't because you haven't started your application yet. So, so I move the state into a maybe on init. And the reason that you can't have an app state with like a default in it is because this has serialize and deserialize on it. And everything that has serialize and deserialize on it also needs to have default on it. Right? Because you can't create an app state unless you've got a default. But but sender and receiver don't implement default. So something has to create it at some point, but there's no place to create it. Maybe there's some other Serde methods that you could potentially use to create the state. But I ended up using a maybe on init for now. So yeah. Okay, so now what happens when the app gets restored, default gets called on the when the app starts up for the first time, default gets called for the template app, and then template app is initialized and the state is set to uninitialized. But where default is called, oh dear, I pressed the wrong button there. Oh, let me cancel that. Where default is called is in the new method on the template app. It uses unwrap or default here. So in this method, after this default has been called, where the state is currently uninitialized, we have a chance to initialize the state so that after this new method is finished, the state is initialized, regardless of whether the other things in the app template itself were default or restored from state by this. So that's where the sender and receiver are created. And the receiver is then used in the main update method. So we're in the update method here. And it goes try and iterate over the messages that might have been sent and then handle each message. So if we found a message called create document with some args, we go create document tab, right? But we don't really want to create the document tab. We want to replace the new tab that sent the message, but we don't have any reference to that tab. If we did, let's say we did somehow, maybe we got a tab message and that tab message was, I don't know, like maybe a message has a source or something like that on it, and the source is the new tab, and we can get the source of the message out. Maybe. So say we had the tab key of the tab that sent that message. What could we do with it? So for instance, let's say let source tab and let's just put to do here. What's it? Why is it getting confused here? Oh, silly me. Does help if you put the code in the right place, doesn't it? Okay, so we've got source tab, And in our self, we've got our tree and we've got our tabs, right? So let's look at the tree and see if there's a replace. No, there's no replace, but there's map tabs. There's this. So let's just see map tabs. So if we iterate, if we've got something that gives us a new state which allows us to change the tabs that are open, I don't know. Map tabs, does it do it for each one? I suppose it does. Interesting. Okay, let's have a look. Does it work like this? Map tabs, and it gives us a new doc state. And do we go self dot free is map tabs like this? We're not returning anything in this. Who? Hold on. What is the function supposed to return? The function is supposed to return a new tab. Map tabs, map doc tabs, blah, blah, blah. And gives us a new type. We're not really mapping the tabs, we're just changing them. It's probably going to be easier to remove it and add it, but then we're going to break our requirement, you see. Yeah. We're not changing the type of the tabs. We want to change one of the instances. Yeah, maybe it is still usable. I don't know. Let's try moving this and just putting it somewhere else just for the moment. What can we do? Because we don't have this source tab. Let's just quickly create a new button. Oh, this is supposed to be closable button. Let's just put this code here. Just for now. We don't have the source. Yeah. Okay. Decisions. You see, this is why I didn't really want to look at this. I knew this would be a pain. All right. What can we do here? It wants a reference to it. Oh, I see. Wait, this takes a reference to a tab. So you don't get to own the tabs anyway. Filter map tabs. This one takes a reference to a tab as well. Weird. They used then in this closure. It's supposed to return an optional, so optional returns. Oh, I see. So, okay. So you want to keep it and then add a new one. You can't sort of remove one and add one in the same place. I thought this was going to be a problem. Can you? It's a mute on the tabs. Iter all tabs mute. I suppose that's what we've got to do. Yeah. Because we're not removing anything from this, so we don't really want to filter it. We don't really want to map it because we're not changing the type of it. We just want to change the tab. Source tab. Okay, so not any of that. What are we going to do? Let's ignore this test button for now. Let's think about how we can get that source. I mean, source. Is source the right thing here to do? Do we want to? Oh dear. Okay. Let's try changing the sender and receiver to use a different type. Let's try that. So we've got a sender. Let's have a fiddle with it and see what happens. I'm not sure about this at all, but let's find out. So let's say the sender has a message source. And a message. And therefore the receiver gets a message source and a message as well. And I suppose we need to define this. And where we've got this at message, if we created another enum, and if we said tab and give it a tab key, right? And maybe there's other sources such as, I don't know, should it be an option? Oh no, no. Oh no. How about we write the code that actually gets the message and then see what that looks like before we decide to put it in an option? Because, you know, we could put none here, or we could wrap message source in an option. Okay, but let's deal with receiving a message. So this is now going to give us a tuple of message source and at message. Right? And now we have a choice. We've got create document tab, but we're not creating a tab now. We're replacing a tab. But let's leave create document tab alone. And we'll just do that for now. And we'll say if we get a a message source, a tab key. Right, and an app message of create document with some args. Then we want to do something, which is replace the tab here. Something like that, right? What's going on here? Create document args. Match. Oh. Okay. And it will say unreachable pattern because there's only one thing, but let's just comment that out for a moment. So we want to replace it, and now we've got a source, let's say. What can we do at this point? I suppose we go self dot. I don't know, tree dot find. I mean, find tab. So do we get a tab? Remove tab. It's a tab. Map tabs. What do we need to do? We get the tab key. Wait, maybe we don't need to interact with the tree at all, because the titles for the tabs come from the next iteration of this loop anyway. Maybe we just need to futz around with our tabs, self.tabs. Right, and the tabs is tabs, right? And this has get mutt, so we can probably do that. I suppose. Tab kind, tabs get mutt of the tab key that we've got in the source, I suppose. And then we can go tab kind. And our tab kind is currently going to be new. Right. And we want to set it to one of these. So let's just for fun, and because it's easy, every time you press the submit button, it changes it into a home tab. Can we do that? Do we have default on this? We do. It's complaining about something. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. One of those. Let's just see what happens here. Now we're going to get some compile errors because we haven't fixed the types of the senders. Because this is now wanting one of these. So we want what? Message source app message. And then we've got to import this. Then we're going to have another one of these probably. I'll come to the document context in a bit. That's a whole another ball game, that was. Then what have we got? We've got this. It wants on submit, and this says it wants one of these. And then what have we got? We've got send. We can't send with just this. We need to send a tuple of things. And we need a message sort. Oh, shouldn't do that. But we need our tab key. Do we have a tab key for ourselves? Tab key. So, yeah. We need a tab key in order to be able to send it. How do we get the tab key? We're in the new tab at the moment. But the new tab doesn't know anything about the key. Oddly. It just knows about its state. Okay. Does the caller to on submit know that? It does. Okay, so it can pass it. So we're fine. So we can pass that here. Aha. So then we can get that, and we can, what, clone the tab key? Seems reasonable. Okay, it compiles. Great. So when we press submit on the form, it should replace the form with a home tab. Who thinks that's going to happen? Oh, it worked. That's good. So we can replace tabs without futzing around with a tab order. Great. Okay. So now let's, instead of making it replace the new tab with home tab, let's replace it with the actual document tab that we actually want. Okay. You know. Let's try that. So let's just close all the other tabs for now because there's far too many things open. So we were back down here and we were doing this, but we don't want to do that. We want to do some of the code that what this was doing, but replacing a tab. So we've got the creation of a tab, which is one thing, and the creation of a document tab, but we don't necessarily want to add the tab immediately to the list of tabs. So this create document tab is doing a lot of the work that we need. So what if we made this return a tab instead of adding it to the list? So here is where it adds it. What about if we say, yeah, okay, let's try that. So if we make this not call this and not call this and move that to something else. How about we rename? Yeah, okay, we'll split this up. Everyone in Rustland uses the word inner, so let's do that. And we're just gonna duplicate things for now. And then I'm going to delete the bits that I don't want and fix the return type. So we just want to create the tab. And we need to return tab kind. There we go. So then we go what? Create net tab kind is create document tab inner with the args. And then we do this bit, perhaps. This might work. Right. Okay, that might work, right? But there's two things going on here. We've got creating it, and then we've got the adding it. So let's refactor this and extract add tab to it. Okay. Now you can see where we're going. Now we can have something called replace tab, perhaps. But let's just try using this where we actually wanted to use it, and then just go with a refactoring after that. So this bit, here we are. We've got the args. Now, why did it do that? That was confusing. Arg, document args. So we've got a tab kind, and now we can go tab kind. Or we can just go like that. That's what we want to do. So we're using the same code that we had before. Can't borrow self more than once. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're getting it, and we've got self, and we're futzing around with it again, and we've got state problems. Yeah. So we'll just do a commit there, and then we'll see what we can do to fix this borrow checker issue. So, do we need self here? That's what I'm thinking. What do we need self for? Yeah, because it's got to update the documents. Okay. Oh no. Oh no. How do we fix it? Oh dear. How do we fix it? How do we fix it? It needs self. So the place where it uses self is here. Oh dear. What can we do? We basically need a way of getting access to the tab that doesn't require a reference to where the tabs are stored. Oh dear. Oh no. I knew this was going to be a problem. What can we do? So here we're borrowing self to get to the tabs. Wait a second. We don't need that here. We can move that here. We can create it here. And we know the tab's going to exist. But it's a bit of a problem if it isn't. So let's make it panic just in case. I mean, we need to make it panic because if the tab doesn't exist at the time this message is processed, which it should do at the moment, there's nothing to prevent that from happening right now. But if it didn't exist at the time this was created, this would be a problem because we would have modified self and added and futzed around with self and updated the list of documents and so on. And then we would try to find a tab, not find the tab, and now we'd have this sort of floating document which doesn't belong to any tab. That would be a bit of a problem. So we're just going to make it panic, and then if that actually happens, we'll come back and investigate why it happens, rather than handling it now, because I don't think we're ever going to need to actually ever handle it. So maybe we can do that. Yes. Okay, that's how we handle it. So we create it first and then replace the tab. Yes. Okay. Create first. Create tab. Create document. Oh wait. Create tab first. Then replace tab. So does it work now? That's the question. Does it work? So let's get rid of these and go new and go test. Give it the current directory. Say text and go submit. So what's supposed to happen now is that the new tab gets replaced by test.txt tab. Oh my god, it worked. Okay. This is good. This is good. We've achieved something. Okay. Okay. So when OK is pressed, the tab name should be updated to the name of the file. Check. We haven't done that yet. Its content should be displayed in the same tab. Yes. There should be no visible removal insertion of any new tab. Yes. Tab ordering must be preserved. We haven't checked that yet, but kind of looked at it earlier, so I think it's going to be okay. Let's just make sure. So let's just do it a couple of times. Let's go new, test 1. Right. And do new, and then leave it there and go new and test 3. Right, so we got test 1, new, and test 3. And now if we go back to this one and go test 2, and pick text again, this test 3, sorry, let's try that again. Test 2 shouldn't appear after test 3. It shouldn't appear at the beginning. And test 1 and 3 should still be in the same order. And this should just change to be test2.txt. It does. This is good. This is the behavior that we want. Great. So we did it. We haven't done that yet, but we'll do that in a minute. So we'll update the requirements. Thus, hey, we've achieved something today. This is good. Monday is going well. Push the code out. Off you go. Whee! All right. So Maybe we should deal with this now. What do you think? I mean, message sources, does it seem unreasonable? We've got this floating around here. Let's delete it. Add it back if we need it. So, yeah, we've got this create document inner thing, and now we've got this create document tab, and this is not used by anything. Let's just press the build button and look at the warnings for a second. Yeah, and now we see these warnings. Create document tab and add tab are never used because add tab is used by create document tab and create document tab is never used. But it might be used later. Yeah. Okay. So we've got our README and we've got this, a file should be created, but let's just quickly see some other existing code. So if we try and open a file, and I'm just going to create a new text file called test1.txt here, right? It prints this at the moment in the log, which says open file, and it gives the path. Right, so I've got a feeling we can use this create document tab instead of just printing this message. So maybe, I don't know, probably not. Probably not. You see, because creating a tab is looking at the file extension and it's got args. Oh dear. No, we're not going to use it. It's going to do something else. What do we want to do first? Do we want to try the opening thing first? Let's try and make the open button works and then see how much of that code gets reused when we load files. Okay. Okay. So open button clicked, pick file. When we click pick file, it uses the picker, right? And then somewhere in our update loop, there's a bit of code which says if the file picker has picked something, then do some other stuff. I don't remember where that happens. Oh, here it is. So it goes, if the file picker has picked something, then you get a picked file. Yeah, and there's this issue. Let me just show you this issue. Yeah, okay. So watch carefully. So let me clear this log. Clear buffer. Right. You go open and you pick a file. And I'm being very careful after doing this not to move the mouse pointer. Nothing happens. No messages printed, nothing. And then watch what happens. I move the mouse. Now it prints the message. That's a problem. So there's a fix me. So apparently the other thread has finished that picked the file because we're picking files in another thread. And the picker got updated. The state of the picker got updated. But nothing triggered this update. Basically no new frame was needed. So the UI didn't get recreated and therefore it didn't check this thing. So somehow, somewhere, we need to do something that says update the UI. But the file picker, I don't know, should it know anything about the fact that it's being used in a user interface? Probably not. Doesn't care about that. It doesn't care. Because this file picker is completely agnostic to being EGUI or not. It's just a wrapper around RFD. It's just a wrapper around RFD. Doesn't know about EGUI. Has no dependencies on EGUI. So then what do you do? Do we need, like, I don't know, where we use the picker? Do we need some other flag to indicate that there's some state change? I don't want to think about it. No, not today. Not today. I'm going to research that and see what everyone else does in this situation. Because I'm pretty sure I'm not the first. I think I've seen other bug reports and maybe other bits of code where other people have to deal with the same situation where a background thread or async process finishes and you need to update the GUI as a result of that finished processing. But it's interesting that it occurs already. This. All right. Anyway, opening files. Back to opening files. I've lost where we were. Yeah, open file. So this is where we were. We've got to fix me. You've got to move the mouse just a little bit and then the file gets opened. Fine. That'll do for now. Open file. So this is where we print the log message. So this is where we actually need to open the file. And we've got this creating a document tab, which is all well and good. But this takes document args. But we don't have document args. We've got a file name. So the question is, do we create document args from the file name or not? Not, I'm going to go with. I mean, we could, but then it kind of just, this create document thing just sort of undoes the creation of the arguments anyway. So, because document args contains a string, a path buff, and a kind. But all we've got is the path, so we need to populate the name and the kind. And maybe we do. Maybe we do. Maybe it is better to do that. Yeah, okay, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it. See, but the path is a directory. Oh, let's fix this. Hold on. Because that's confuzzling. Rename that. It's not the actual path to the file. It's not the actual path to the file. Okay. Yeah, we've got a couple of ways we can go here, I think, haven't we? Let's rename path to directory. Let's just deal with that. Right. There's a couple of ways we could go. We could not use document args and just use a path everywhere. Let's see where we create document args. So the new one, it goes create document args, and then args is built up from this. So you fill in the form and it creates args. Yeah, I don't know. We could get rid of this and just pass in a path to it and then move the logic of put in the file extension, all that kind of stuff in this and just send a path over here. I don't feel that's the right approach. I just have a feeling that it's not. Maybe, I don't know. Not entirely sure. Let's do it the other way. So, yeah, okay. Let's just borrow the bits that we need. Okay. We're going to open a file. In order to open a file, we need a title for the tab. We need a tab. We need a document. And we need a document key and all these things. Right. So we need to know what type of file it is in order to create the right document kind. So I suppose... Do we recreate the document args from the kind? It's kind of weird. You see, because I don't know, you've got image and then is it a PNG or a bitmap? And then do you support it? Oh, I don't know. Let's deal with the title first. Because we can't have a document tab without a title, right? So we need that. So we've got path.file name and then file name. The final component of the path, if there is one, there should be one. Name of the file name. Yeah. So that bit's the same. Fine. And then we've got this path. But does a document tab need a path? Wait, this is the path to the actual file, isn't it? Yeah. So that's okay. So we've got the path because we're adding the extension to the directory here. Yeah. So that's okay. And now we need a document key. You can't get document key until you've done this. So we'll borrow this. And let's also get the tab kind of put that here. And then we'll just fill in the blanks in a minute. And then we want to we want to call add tab with the tab kind, right? So we need a document. Documents are created by doing this. But we don't know that we want to do one of those yet. So we need to do some conditional stuff based on the file extension that we were given. Sure. Well, hold on a second. If something, then we create a text document. Otherwise, we create an image document. We could do this, I suppose. Perhaps. If the extension is .txt, then it's... Yeah, okay. But we don't have a document. Okay. That apparently compiles. Okay. Let's try opening a file. I'm just going to quickly edit this with Notepad. Test 1. Right. Okay, and then we're going to try and edit it. Open it in this. Oh, what happened? Not yet implemented. Maybe we don't need a dot. Who remembers the API? Yeah, it was that. Now, we've got a problem. Because that file does not contain this content. You saw me create it just a minute ago. That's because we're not actually loading it. But, you know, we've got this. So fine. There's probably some refactoring that we can do here. Because lots of this was the same as lots of this. I don't know. Tab kind. I mean, these two lines were the same. These two. And then these two were the same as these two. And then this one was the same as this one. Yeah, I'll come back to that in a bit. Let's say create document tabs when after picking files, after picking a file. Because if we said load document, we'd be lying at this point in time. Right. So we create a tab. I think the problem is we're calling create new here, and we shouldn't be calling create new. We should be calling something else. We should be calling from path here. And that's where this example content came from. So let's just check that. Yeah, now it says loading. Wait, no, I haven't done it. That one, now it says loading. That's what we want. Let's just amend that commit. Okay. So we've got our text document. Let's close everything else. Close all the other tabs. So we've got this to do here. Somehow, we want to load the content. Let's look at the requirements for a moment about loading content. And we're not actually creating this file yet. We're opening as well. We've got to deal with that. Where is it? Yeah, we're sort of trying to work towards this. When a file is open, a tab appears, and depending on the file type, it shows different content in the tab. That's what we're getting to, but I'm trying to find the other requirement that says what happens when you're supposed to open it. Yeah, this. Content must be loaded in the thread or async in the background. That's the requirement. Yeah, I suppose we've done that as well at this point. Let's see what happens with regards to the text selection and caret position, because that was a complete failure in other GUI frameworks. I'm kind of curious. And then we'll come back to the loading of the file. Now let's just focus on... Let's focus. We'll come back to that. Let's load the file in the background. So, how? How? How do we do it? Does EGUI provide any sort of like ASCII related stuff? Should we look for other EGUI examples that might do stuff like this? That's probably not a bad idea. EGUI examples. Should we search for await? Well, that didn't give us anything. Okay. What about thread? Shows how you can use EGUI in parallel for multiple threads. What does it do? Parallel EGUI app. Thread state. Background thread. Having a quick look at this. What's the name of this file? Hello world par. That's that one. Okay. So what else is there? What other ones have we got? We've got serial windows. Oh, just sleeping. Well, there's only one example that uses threads, so let's have a look at it. What does it do? Because we don't really want two windows or anything like that. We just want some background thing to happen. And when it's happened, we want to update the state of the application. We want to update the UI rather. Come on, compile. Right. Where's the threading? I mean, maybe these are all on another. Seems a bit odd. What's happening in here? Let me run that again. What is going on in this? And it's got a message here. My label is always done. There's this show. Thread builder. And where's this coming from? Name. Oh, that's the thread name. That's fine. And then we spawn in thread state. A thread state. Has a show method. And that takes a context, but the show. So it receives a context. They have threads that receive context. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, that's not really what we're trying to do. Oh, I see. And that's where it passes the context over to the other threads. Not really what we're trying to do. But it's an interesting example nonetheless. What we're trying to do is get information from one thread and then update the UI. Yeah, it's not really going to help us there. Okay, well, I suppose we're just going to have to work it out ourselves, aren't we? Fine. So what we've got is content, and it's an optional string. And the idea is that you spawn a background thread, and then the option gets replaced with a sum of the content, right? That's the idea. Or we have some maybe uninit and a Boolean flag, which probably ends up being similar, but you know. And you don't use the potentially uninitialized stuff unless the Boolean flag is set. But that seems like it's the same as doing an option in this kind of code. So yeah, we'll go with option. But then we've got to deal with the whole process of locking stuff. Because we can't have the UI futzing around with the content until the content is there. And the other thread won't be able to update the option, this data, because, yeah. So how do we do it? Because probably what we're going to need is a mutex here. Oh, I don't know. Let's find out. From path. Create new. Yeah. So this is where we've got to check self.content, right? And this is where it shows you a text editor, or it shows you the loading label, which we need to internationalize. I'm not finished this code, so yeah. So this is probably going to break. Okay, let's try loading it. I mean, what actually starts the loading process? Should the from path spawn a new thread immediately and then do it in the background? Or should something else happen? I mean, should the UI thing basically go, well, if I don't have self.content and we're not loading it, then start loading it? Maybe. Or should we just expect that the UI gets called when the thread is finished, which we know doesn't work? because of that other problem with the file picker, right? So yeah, where do we go from here? Where do we put the code? So in other frameworks that we've had like there's been like an update method that gets called when some state is changed. But in EGUI, you don't get that. You get an update method when the system thinks the UI needs to be updated. Have this UI. Don't know. Honestly, don't know right now. Brain blocked. What would you do? Do we start looking for more examples of this, or do we just have a crack at doing something? I don't know. I mean, do we send them? Because in other systems, we've also returned a message to send to this, but we're not really dealing with messages in this. And I don't really want to add the whole, message sending stuff that we had from like ICE and all the other things into this. At this point, could do, but doesn't feel like that's the EGUI way to me at this point. I don't know, what do we do? Let's create a thing in here. What? Do we replace this with something else? I've just got this feeling that we should. Text document content. Don't know. How about we do that? And go loaded, or rather, how about date? Loader state. And then maybe an enum for loader state, which is uninitialized, loading, and loaded. And only if it's loaded do we have a string. And then maybe we go impl for text document content. We go content. And it gives us an optional string reference. And we match state, and if it's loaded, we return some content. Otherwise, we don't return anything. And the lifetime of this should be okay because it needs to be mutable. Content mutt, perhaps. And then let's fix this. Let's rename this to loader. Is it a loader? Maybe. And that bit is the same. And let's say there's a default on this. And this one is default, perhaps. And derive default on this. And let's say, because we need to handle this default content. New. Self.state loaded content. I suppose we can do that. So we can go text document content new. Oh, not self. Duh. Oh, there's autocomplete happening there. Something like that, maybe. Oh yeah, and then we go what? From path. I suppose we go text document content default for now, but we still need to do that. Uninitialized. So perhaps we can say loading on this one. Load. And give it the path point. I don't know. Maybe. Let's put that here for a moment. Create the self and say it's loading. And then do something else. And maybe have a thread or something like that in here, like a handle or something. I don't know. It just, this doesn't feel right to me at all at the moment. Because we're going to need to replace the state with the string that gets loaded, and it's all going to be funky and weird. We need to do something with this path and return self here when we do this. Is there not clone? Oh yeah. Let's go. That loader is this. to get rid of that error. Let's just compile that, see if that compiles. Yeah. We need to do something with this path here now. What? Stood. Think. Was it in a thread? Oh, we want to go build a new. And we're going to give it a name. Something like that. Name. What's going on here? Then you get handle. Oh, I suppose we can give the handle over here, can't we? Join handle, and this is going to return something. Let's go boo dot to string. So you get a string when it finishes. Does that compile? Does. So somehow we've got to go from a loading state to a loaded state. Where? Where do we put that code? Do we do it in here? What? Self dot loader dot try update maybe? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it goes here. We're going to mutate ourselves. And I guess we need to go match self.state. And if it's uninitialized, we don't care. But if it's loading, we need to do something. Handle. I don't know the thread API very well, so bear with me. Thread.join. Does join block? Because we don't want to block. Try join. Join. Let's have a look at join. Waits for the thread to finish. No, you see, I don't want to do that. Is finished. So we want to do is finished and then join. Handle. Move. Why? Something like that, but it's complaining about handle. Is this because it's, yeah, not mutable there? That's fine. We don't care about the other states. There's nothing to do. Is that it? Did we do it? No. Oh, whoops. I changed that in the wrong place. My bad. Ref. No. We get a join handle. How do we get it? This gives us a mutable join handle. It's complaining here that it can't move it. Because why? How do you use the handle to join a thread? That's a... I don't know. And what happens if we do that? How are you supposed to use this? It takes self. What do you need to do here? Threading API. Okay, well, let's see if there's an example. Naming threads, stack sizes, yada, yada, yada. No. What am I supposed to do? So we've got a mutable reference to a join handle. But we want a join handle. Do we need to put this in something that we can get? Should this be something else? Should this be like what? A ref cell or something? I don't really want to take something out of it and then put it back in and all this stuff. Do we need a... Are we in the land of mutexes again? Surely not, because there's nothing else that needs to do it. Is it a ref cell that we need here? Who remembers the ref cell API? I always forget which one you need for all this. The purpose of ref cell is shareable mutable content. I don't need to share it really. I just want to take something out of it. Or is it a cell that I need? Maybe it is a cell that we need. I want to get it, but these don't work unless the thing's a copy or something. Or clone. Moving values in and out. You can't get a mutable reference to it, which is fine. I don't want one. And the value itself cannot be obtained without replacing it with something else. So it's like, I never know when to use cell. It seems weird. Like, we can go option join handle and take it, right? We can do that. Wait, no, hold on. If let some handle, maybe handle is this, and then we can do it, right? And then we have to put it back. And then put it back in it. Maybe we can do this a slightly more clever way. If handle I don't want to take it out of it, check the state of it, and then put it back in it. It seems dumb. It's only the join that we can't call, but surely there's a better way of doing this. If the handle is sum, it just seems very wrong. It just seems very, very wrong. This does. I just want something I can get at, so I can call join. You know, like, I don't really want to mutate the state of this handle every time the update method is called on the UI to check to see whether it's finished or not. It just seems crazy. Mutate the state and then check it. Let's try doing it another way because this sucks. If handle I mean, it's always going to be sum at this point because we're going to put it back. Maybe we go if handle dot as ref unwrap is finished, then go then take it, then join it and do that perhaps instead of this, because I don't want to do that. Maybe that's better. So if there's a handle, which there always will be, and the thread is finished, then take the handle, which allows us to call join on it to get the string out of it, and then we can replace our state with the loaded state. Does that work? It compiles. Doesn't need to be mutable. Okay, let's just get rid of these warnings for a moment. Use the import. That's one's fine. Create document text never used. That's fine for the moment. Text cell and ref cell. We didn't need to use those. I'm going to leave context there for them. Oh, do we? No, we've got document context now. Okay. Do we think we load files in the background? Open. I think it might have worked. Wait, no. Where's this foo coming from? What's in our file? What's in our file? I didn't think it had foo in it. No, it has this in it. We've got some other bit of code floating about somewhere. It's here. That's because we've not actually put anything in the thread yet. Right. Oh, because... Okay, so that worked. But we didn't actually load the file. Forgot about that. Right, so we've got this path. And we want to give that to the thread. So I guess we go let content that, maybe. Maybe that's all we need now. Let's see. Who thinks we can open a file and show the right content? I think it might work now. Oh my gosh, it worked. We loaded it in the background thread. Amazing. Let's see what happens if we close it and run it again. It still works. Amazing. All right, so, you know, I guess I wasn't too far off the mark when I did all that. So, to do, load content in the background thread. Done. Let's finish this up and put the translation for that in. We could use a spinner while it loads or something as well. But let's say what? I don't know. What do we start the key with? Just loading. Let's just go with that for now. It feels like it should live in some sort of like key, like some prefix. There should be like file dash loading or something. I don't know. Yeah, let's do that. So this needs to be tr file dash loading. So we're loading stuff in the background. Did we use this uninitialized thing like ever? No. Should we even have default on this? Do we need default? Let me do a commit and try and delete some things. Load text file in background thread. Let me just try and delete some things here because I don't remember why I needed it. I thought I did, but perhaps I don't. No, I don't. Because we only ever create the state as being loaded or loading. Yeah. Thus, via those two. So we don't need it. Let's just amend that a bit. Okay, fine. Okay, we're looking good. Right, let's update the README. Files should be created with appropriate file access. We're not creating files yet. Right. Dunsky. Show text file content in an editor. Yes. I think we did that. We're showing the file content. It's great. We're not saving anything yet. Don't worry about that. No one ever said anything about saving things. Just want to show it. We can open the same file twice now, but it's not really a problem because we're never saving anything. So, you know, whatever. We need to create the file. Yeah. But I think we're going to leave that for another day. Update requirement. Date, I suppose, again. So I think I'm going to handle this off stream and have a look at some of the other things that need doing as well. But we've made some progress, and from what I can see, there doesn't appear to be much in EGUI that works with threads and tasks and all that kind of stuff, because I didn't find any in the example. Perhaps I'll have a look at some EGUI documentation to see if there are any other ways that you're supposed to do this. Because other GUI frameworks sort of implement this notion of like tasks and things like this, like ICE does, for instance. So, but we were able to do it without using any APIs and so on. So, yeah. I've got this nagging feeling, however. I've got this nagging feeling that there's a fix for me waiting to be done. I'm going to try clicking open. Oh, no. Wait. We know that this only happens when I move the mouse pointer. Hold on a second. So if I double click this file. Yeah. And then not moving the mouse. And as soon as I move the mouse, it does that. Right. So we've still got that issue. That's an old issue from before. But is there another issue? Because this is going to create content. Is there another issue? See, because we've already got that problem, but I think it's happening twice now. But I can't make it happen. Because the file picker lets you pick the file, and that's one thread. And then when that happens, it starts another thread, which then might have finished by the time the UI actually renders. I don't know, it might be happening twice, but it's too quick. I suppose if we added a delay to it, we might be able to notice it. Let's try that real quick. Let's make the loader sleep. Thread. Is it sleep? Duration. From seconds. Let's make it sleep for 5 seconds. And then we'll be able to see what happens. So if we go open, and then I'm going to double click the file without moving the mouse pointer. And now it's not doing anything. And now if I move the mouse pointer, we should see it say loading. And then in 5 seconds time, it should display it. And I'm not moving the mouse pointer. But there's a panic. So something else has gone wrong. But now it's displaying it. And then we've got a panic as well. So yeah, we do have the problem twice. So it only displayed the content when I move the mouse. So we've got a problem. And there's also this weird panic. I guess I'll investigate that, I suppose. Unwrapping failed? It's weird. Let me clear that, run it again. When does that? Oh, that's for the panics occurred because of the previous Previous tab. Ooh. Maybe not. Okay, I'm going to dig into that. I'll fill you in on the next stream on that one. So we made some progress and we've got some issues. So hopefully this was useful to see how you might do background loading of files and replacing tabs. If it was, give me a thumbs up. And if you've got any comments on what you'd like to see on the next stream, put them below as well, and we'll see if we can do those too. Okay, so just remember, folks, it's only software. How hard can it be? We'll find out on the next one. See ya!